Even though furnished apartments in Germany are becoming more popular, there will come a time when you most likely need to buy something for your home and you're probably wondering, where do I buy this stuff? In this video, we will explore the home shops in Germany so you can have an idea of where to purchase what. Hey, my name is Jen and I'm from Guatemala.
And mine is Yvonne and I'm German.
And together we're from simplegermany.com, where we create English content to empower internationals to settle into life in Germany more smoothly. First item on our list is furniture. So where can I buy furniture?
So to look for furniture stores, you would be looking for Möbelhaus. That is the German word for it. And you will probably find abundance of them when you enter that word plus your city into Google or any other search engine. Now the biggest and most popular Möbelhäuser, furniture stores, are of course IKEA, dominating also the German market, but also XXL Lutz or XX Lutz, I never know how to pronounce that, Otto, Höfner, Porta, Schaffrath. There's really tons of them. And they are really big furniture stores, as you would imagine. And you can not only get like furniture like couches, but also beds and mattresses and linen for the beds, but also full kitchens or just kitchen appliances or just kitchen items like a pan or fork or a knife, really down to the nitty-gritty.
Yeah, so they have like a lot of things. To be honest, before we did the research for this, I just knew about IKEA. I saw the ads of certain things, but I never knew it was a furniture store. There's one other one called Rola.
Rola, yeah.
And that one, I always thought for some reason it was a sports shop, so I never knew that was also a furniture store.
Now these furniture stores, the bigger ones, they're usually located a little bit outside the city center just because of their sheer size. And that means that if you intend on buying bigger things, you should probably either go there by car or rent it like transport or anything if you don't own a car yet.
Yes, highly recommended. I remember when I went to IKEA, one of the times that I took the train and then the bus and then another bus and then walking from Düsseldorf actually, I bought more than I expected and it was really, really painful to actually arrive back home with all this stuff. So if I would have rented a car or asked a friend, it would have been a lot easier for sure.
Now, most of these shops, of course, also have online shops. However, depending on what you buy and which shop you're looking at, there is usually a very hefty shipping fee. When I did my research, like for example, for electronics, like bigger electronics appliances, there would be a shipping fee between 50 and 80 euro. For my taste, that is quite expensive. And interestingly enough, also only 27% of Germans actually shop their furniture online.
Which is super interesting. Another thing regarding the online shopping in IKEA, for example, I don't know if it's like all of Germany, but at least here in Düsseldorf, when you buy things to click and collect, you still have like 15 or 20 euros added to your account, even though you're collecting it. And I don't know why, maybe because that's the service of someone going to the warehouse and looking for the stuff.
Probably, yeah.
And I also don't understand, because if I'm buying it online, I'm picking it myself, there's also a fee. So just be aware of the hidden fees that might happen if you buy bigger items and furniture stuff.
Yeah.
Online. Online, of course, yeah.
But even if you go in person and decide to purchase something on that day that is a bit too big for the car that you have, or it's not ready yet, or you would really like to have it delivered, most often that's also possible, of course, for a fee, but you could arrange it also in the shop directly.
Now let's go to the controversial kitchen. Why do I say controversial? Because, again, just to clarify, the majority of listings when you rent an apartment in Germany, some of the pictures might show a kitchen installed. However, some of the times the owner dismantles the kitchen and takes it with them to the next home that they take, or they resell it. They could resell it to you, or they could just resell it on eBay just to not have the hassle of reselling it to the next tenant.
When Jen says the owner, just to clarify, usually the tenant owns the kitchen or brought the kitchen with him. And it is not that common that the landlord actually owns and installs the kitchen. That is here the difference. However, in recent years, months, listings with kitchen have actually increased. And what you need to look out for, we already talked about this in the renting video, is that it has the shortening, the abbreviation of EBK or Einbauküche, and that means that the kitchen is included. Most often or not though, rent will be higher for an apartment that has a kitchen in it than without a kitchen.
Yes, so what do you need to look out for when you want to shop for a kitchen? So if your apartment is one of those that doesn't have a kitchen, you're going to have to go kitchen shopping, most likely.
Now, of course, there's different types of kitchens and different budgets. If I would like to have the most budget-friendly option and don't really, care about the design that much, but really just want a functioning kitchen, I went on IKEA.com and pretty much shopped around and picked together a modular kitchen, which they also have, and it was below 1,000 euro. So that is actually possible, and you don't need to break a bank for pretty much being able to cook and have a fridge and all that kind of thing.
So this 1,000 euros included a fridge too, right?
Yes.
And a stove.
Yes.
Yeah, which is, I think, the highly essential things. And a
sink.
sink.
Now, when I went a little bit more moderate, like I upgraded that modular kitchen a little bit and looked at so-called kitchen units. In German, you would say Küchenzeile. So one that pretty much covers one wall and maybe like a corner, but that's it, like no island or anything, two-wall system. So very simple. That includes a stove and an oven, like an exhaust hood for the stove, but also a dishwasher, a fridge, and of course a sink. I ended up at around 2,500 euros, which I still think is reasonable. I mean, of course it's a lot of money, but if you think about it, it's a complete kitchen with appliances. That is still quite reasonable.
I have a question to that one. So these are the kitchens that you would see most popular in Germany, maybe because they're like installed into the furniture, so to speak. However, this 2,500 is without installation, right?
Yes,
That is just the appliances, just the kitchen, measured to your kitchen. However, you still need to think of, you need to install that at an additional fee.
Or do it yourself.
Or do it yourself.
If you have the knowledge, yes, yeah. But we talk about installation later.
Yes, okay. So now what if I want like a more luxurious kitchen because, I don't know, I just have the budget and I would like to pimp my kitchen up a little bit?
Sky is the limit. There really is an unlimited budget opportunity here because especially in Germany, we love fancy kitchens and also very high quality, like branded appliances. Actually, a lot of kitchen brands that are popular worldwide are German. During my research, I actually found out that there is a thing outside of Germany that's called a German kitchen, and that like describes a certain design. So if you want the luxury version, like with the island and with all kinds of fancy stuff, you can go 5 figures easily.
Totally. So it really highly depends on what you're looking for in the market in a nutshell.
Yeah. Very, very important when we talk about kitchen is the waiting time. The moment, let's say you go to what we just described, the moderate or luxury level, so it's really like a more or less custom made kitchen and not just a modular one that you put together, there are usually waiting times of 3 months or more.
That is true. So what do people do without a kitchen in that time? Well, they actually set a temporary kitchen, which usually includes camping gear. So for example, your sister, she had her kitchen with her camping stove and different little elements until the kitchen actually was arrived and installed.
Now, if you're looking to get a fitted kitchen and you would like a personal consultant or designer helping you out with that, that is certainly possible and usually also free of charge because it's part of like the service for you to buy, right? And you can make an online appointment at most of the online shops or most of the furniture shops that we talked about, so you avoid waiting times. You can also shop around yourself with 3D module tools online to mix and match and get a bit of a better feeling for it.
Another thing you should note is that gas stoves are not so popular in Germany. For example, I remember in Guatemala, we always had a gas stove. And here, it's mainly electrical stoves. So one of the big questions I had when arriving to Germany is where do I buy DIY stuff and paint and garden things and all these elements that I don't find it in the furniture stores per se?
That would be the classical Baumarkt. So that is kind of like, what is the translation? A building market. That's stupid.
A Home Depot.
Pretty much, yes. So a Baumarkt is the German word. There are different brands. One is actually called Baumarkt, but there's Obi, there's Hornbach, there is Globus, there is all kinds of brands. And again, if you Google Baumarkt in your city, you will find the options in your area, right? They're also usually located a little bit outside the city, sometimes inside the city, but still better accessible by car, I would say. It depends a little bit. And there you can find anything from uncut wood, from doors for your house, from also sinks, from kitchens, showers, anything and everything, paint, from little screws, tools, literally from anything and everything you need for DIY or just singular things you need for your construction.
Yes, and it depends on the shop as well. You might find some things for crafts or DIY crafts and stuff. For example, canvases, oil paints, but that's not the general focus. Usually these Baumärkte are based on things for building things for the house. For example, for us to self-build our camper van, we went to a Baumarkt to get all the wood and all the paint and all these things necessary. Cool thing is that also in that one, you can mix and match the colors. I don't know if that's important, but you can actually go there and choose colors and they can match it for you and then create that mix for you. So that was pretty cool.
Yep. Now, if you're looking for plants, really like home plants or garden plants, often in the Baumarkts, there is also like a garden section, or IKEA also has plants for the house. But of course, there are also dedicated garden centers, and they're usually also called Gartencenter, which you can again Google for your city, and there you can find anything from everything, like small, big, indoor, outdoor. Some of them are really beautiful and like a real paradise.
Yes, for example, in the one here in Düsseldorf by the neighborhood that we live, it's even open on Sundays. So I don't know if that's a global garden center thing or just a specific one, but that's a cool thing. So at least us, we can go shopping for plants on Sundays. Now, what about if you want to buy, let's say, a pot or a pan or just a stirring thing for the kitchen? You don't necessarily have to go all the way outside of the city for that, right?
No.
There are in the city these home good shops.
Yes. Now, I wouldn't just say home good, but I would generally direct you towards a shop like Kaufhof, which is a evergreen shop. Also lots of clothing and all kinds of things, but also a dedicated section for the kitchen or for home goods per se. Also for bed linen and pillows and all small things for home goods in the kitchen.
Suitcases,
yes.
bags.
Suitcases, yes, anything like that. Now, if you're looking for a more budget-friendly version or like a discount shop for home goods, Teddy and Cody would be two options where you can find a smaller selection, but usually a very good variety.
Yes, and what about home decor shops, meaning the things that you can make your home pretty with? So every city, I would say, has their own kind of like independent designers and people that put these shops somewhere. So they're probably like the indie shops, let's call them. But how about the more global ones that you can find everywhere in Germany? These are brands like Butlers.
You mean like global for Germany, yeah?
Yeah.
You're more
Global,
nationwide.
Nationwide. I'm doing the typical US thing, like World Championship, and it's just the US.
But yes, you were saying Butlers, yeah?
Yeah, Butlers, Depot is another one. And lately, at least here in Düsseldorf, we've seen it also in Berlin and other cities, there's these concept stores popping up from Scandinavic designs, where it's a mini IKEA, I would say, but it's just for home decor elements for your home.
Yeah, very also like sustainable oriented, very wood focused, yeah.
Yeah. Now, I really love stationery in terms of pens and pencils and notebooks and all these things. And for the longest time, I couldn't figure out, where do I buy these things in Germany? So first of all, what's the German word for all of this?
So stationery, the German word would be Schreibwaren. And if you're looking for a dedicated shop for Schreibwaren, it would be a Schreibwarengeschäft.
There you go. So you can Google that plus the name of your city. So also Kaufhof has a section specifically for stationery. You can also, it's a very popular section for kids to also buy their school supplies. However, they have both the school supplies for kids and they have another section that is more elite or luxury, like better paper, better pens and stuff that you can also find there. Another place that you can find these things is in a post office. They tend to be a little bit more expensive and the variety is a lot smaller, but any DHL post office would have also some sort of stationery stuff. And of course, stamps and stuff like this, right?
Right. And you can always find like a basic supply in supermarkets as well. So it depends on how specific you want to be going. I remember back in the day when I was still living in Bonn, there was also a dedicated office supply shop. That literally had only that, but that kind of died out, unfortunately, and I've never really found that again. And we don't have a, for example, Office Depot as you have in the US, like this, IKEA-sized shop for stationery that does not exist in Germany.
Yeah, that's a shame. For example, we were looking for the longest time for office chairs, and it would be so cool. In the US, there are these Office Depots, so you just go and they have multiple chairs that tend to be quite good quality, at least what I remember. However, here in Germany, that wasn't the case, and one had to go to very sophisticated shops where a chair would cost maybe like 20,000 euros, and you're like, what? So at the end of the day, Amazon would be the solution in these cases.
Or for office chairs, you go back to the furniture shops that we mentioned at the beginning, and they have, of course, a selection, but not the types that we were looking for.
That is a very fair point. Now, the place to buy hygienic products or cleaning products for your home, it's actually the supermarkets. You can also find a small selection, and they always tend to be a little bit more expensive in my opinion because the selection is so limited. But the most popular place to go buy this stuff is either DM or Rossmann, or another one called Müller.
Exactly, yeah. So the classic in German called Drogeriemärkte.
Yes, and if you are in the city, you can always Google Drogeriemarkt and the name of your city. Because in Berlin, we also saw different shops that we had not heard before, that we don't know.
Different brands, yeah.
Yeah, very Berlin specific. So we're pretty sure in other parts of the country, they're very, let's say, Munich specific or stuff like that. But DM and Rossmann are everywhere, even in the small towns.
Now, when it comes to secondhand shopping, also for furniture or household goods, also the app that we mentioned before is eBay Kleinanzeigen, very popular, and I'd say the number one kind of like exchange app for used goods. But also nebenan.de, like the neighborhood community app is or website is very popular to exchange or buy used products. And also if you're looking for flea markets, the German word for that would be Flohmarkt, so literally the translation of it. Yeah.
it doesn't flow, it's spelled different.
No, it's like the flow is the flea. Yeah. Flohmarkt, flea markets. They're quite popular in Germany. They're usually on Sundays in neighborhoods of cities. So again, Google Flohmarkt and your city and you will find the ones that are there.
Now for my favorite kind of subject of buying things for home is electronics, and that means, for example, game consoles, headphones, TVs, cables and stuff like that. So there are also nationwide known companies, and those are MediaMarkt and Saturn, which funny enough, they are actually the same company, but they pretend they compete against each other just with cheaper price and different selection. However, I would say I have not always been successful in going to these companies to buy things. And in that case, I go to Amazon. For example, I was looking for an XLR cable for a microphone that broke down recently. I went to MediaMarkt and there is no XLR cables at all.
But I would say that's also extremely specific and not necessarily what the average person living in his household needs.
Okay, fair point. I also needed a headphone holder, and I also didn't find it in MediaMarkt the other day. I have a lot of examples if you want to keep playing this game. So anyway, so just know they have big appliances and popular things like your Nintendo Switch. Of course, you can buy it there with different games and stuff like that.
Also important, your washing machine.
Yes, your TV, your also, how do you call this? The dust, the vacuum cleaner. Yes, and all these things you can also buy them there.
Or even in some of the furniture stores. So some shops really have a very big variety of what in their portfolio.
So if you're moving to a new apartment and you're wondering, okay, but how much money do I need to furnish all of my apartment? The answer is
it depends.
Because it depends a lot on the size of your apartment, the quality of the appliances that you want to get,
whether you're moving alone or with your family.
Also, if you're buying first or second hand. But just to give you an estimation, there's a website called Kosten Check that did a study where they kind of like gathered all the elements that you need to furnish an apartment, including couch, dining table with chairs, pretty much anything you need. And they landed on a rough estimate of 1,600 euros for everything in a very budget-friendly option. We will put the guide in the description box below if you're interested in that study that they did. And that is kind of a rough estimate. Kind of matches a little bit with what you did with your budget-friendly only kitchen stuff.
Yeah, and that includes, of course, also self-pickup and self-assembly.
Yes.
So you're basically doing everything yourself.
True.
Yeah. Maybe to point out here that the electronic appliances such as like a TV and a washing machine and of course the kitchen appliances are the most expensive parts of fitting your flat.
Totally.
Now, of course, the 1,600 euros just mentioned is really, in Germany would say sportlich. Like it's a really, you need to search hard for it and you need to put a lot of work and effort in it. Now, if you want to go the opposite end, the luxury version, again, sky is the limit.
Yeah.
And you can easily spend 5 figures, 10, 20, 30,000 to furnish your flat.
Yeah.
Which, maybe you don't want to do that when you just move freshly to a new country. Yeah. I would say on average, maybe a moderate flat setup, including a moderate kitchen, you could probably land somewhere between 7,000 to 8,000 euro. Again, depending on what you choose really and whether you assemble yourself or not, because assembly is quite expensive in Germany. But that just gives you like a ballpark of what you can work with. At the end of the day, it really depends on your also design style in a way.
Just to not freak you out, it highly depends on your lifestyle, how you will approach this. For example, when I lived alone, I was in a WG, it's called in German, or a shared apartment, and there the kitchen was already there. However, the room had very limited things, and I wanted to have better stuff, like a better bed, better closet, better cupboard, and I couldn't afford to pay all of it at once. So throughout months, of course, the bed was the priority, I saved some money, but a better bed, then the cupboard, and then the closet, and then I had a very nice room where I was very comfortable in. Good. So what should you be looking out for? A furnished apartment or a not furnished apartment? And again, the answer, it depends.
It really depends. And also this topic is always evolving because the market is evolving. And just to give you an idea, between 2008 and 2015, the number of furnished apartments in Germany quadrupled. So there is a trend that there is more furnished offers. However, why is that the case? Because of course for a furnished apartment, whether it's fully or just with a kitchen or half furnished, let's put it that way, landlords can of course ask higher rents. So in the long run, they will have a better business with it. So the question furnished or not depends highly on how long you intend to stay in Germany. If you only intend to stay here, let's say 2 to 3 years, maybe a furnished apartment will end up with the same price over the span of 2-3 years, but save you all the hassle. It also highly depends on whether you would like to design your flat yourself, right? If it's furnished, that's what it is. You can't really change that much because usually you should also keep it in the way that you got it. And of course, it depends highly on your budget also, because like we said, furnished is more expensive, sometimes a lot more expensive. And last but not least, if you want to have the biggest selection of flats available, especially in a tight market anyways, don't put a filter and pretty much go with what you find and then adapt your decision on that.
On that note, the big question is, can I modify my apartment? And this is a tricky one because it depends. I love actually answering that way to every question.
No, it's horrible.
But it's horrible. Yes, I agree. So the answer is that you can modify your apartment in terms of you can put nails to hang pictures and whatnot. You can paint your walls, add wallpaper. But when you move out, you have to leave the apartment how you left it. You have to look at, you got it. So usually in the contract, some contracts specify how that is, whether the walls need to be repainted white. Generally speaking, they need to be repainted in a bright color or a light color. So that means all the holes that you did, you need to take the screws out or the nails, and then you need to plaster them and paint it over so it looks like a brand new fresh wall. So what are the things you cannot do or you could do, but you need the approval of the landlord?
Put in, for example, an extra wall. Or install an AC. We had the question lately. So anything that modifies the apartment and in a bigger way that is not so easily undone, that you would need to discuss and at the end of the day get the approval from your landlord. Now regarding the walls of the painting, it depends a little bit how you took the flat over. Like if it is not renovated, then depending on how long you live in it, you also don't need to renovate it when you move out. So that is a topic for another day.
Yes, and as we discussed in the How to Rent an Apartment in Germany video, when you move into the apartment, find all the things that are not tip-top and take pictures of it. For example, we have friends that moved to a very brand new looking apartment. However, when they look closely in the windows, they all had little chip marks because maybe a storm or something hit them and they've never been recovered.
I think someone cleaned them with something scruffy.
Or maybe that. And they took pictures and they have that and they showed it to the landlord, meaning that when they move out, they don't have to replace the whole windows, as an example. So now if you want to make changes or you need, for example, someone to install that beautiful kitchen that you got, where do you find these workers in Germany?
Well, to install the beautiful kitchen that you got, like we said before, in the store that you buy it, you can also book the installation directly.
True.
And usually, especially with kitchens, IKEA, for example, they usually charge the running meter. So if you have a kitchen that's 2.20 meters, you will pay for 3 meters. And they charge the entire length. So for example, if you have like a bottom counter and top cupboards, it still is 3 meters. However, if you have only a bottom counter and an island, then it is the length of all of it together. So for example, my sister, they kind of like did a calculation and they had the bottom counter and top counter installed because it was a running meter and it was double, top and bottom. But the island would have cost the same as the top and bottom, so they just did that themselves. So it depends again whether you want to do it and what kind of budget you have. If you want to have other handymen or external people that install the kitchen, then you can go to a website called myhammer.de, which is pretty much for any handyman. And you can, you put in what you're looking for. So you describe your flat, you describe the job that you want to be done, and then service providers will pretty much respond to your listing and tell you what they can do, and pretty much probably ask for a phone call or like some other conversation, and you can pick and choose which provider you want to choose.
Yes, you can try to put the ad in English. To be honest, every time we've tried it, we've done it in German because you do it. However, if you would like to post it in German, make sure to Google Translate it could be an option, and keep it as simple as possible, right? Not like, dear sirs and madams, I'm looking for, no, keep it as simple as possible, the job that is required, and then someone will get in touch with you, most likely.
Yeah, and just as a little specification, in German, a handyman, generally speaking, would be a Handwerker. Of course, there are more specifications to a Handwerker, but that's just the general word. And the differentiation to someone that actually installs pipes, so that can install the sink and the washing machine and all that in the kitchen, that would be an Installateur, because you will run across those words when you go online.
Yeah, big difference, important ones to know. Now, if you're curious about the rules and regulations and how to do online shopping in Germany, make sure to click on the video that's here on the left. Until next time, cheers! Because that was the end, ne?
Yeah, good job, ne?